Good evening and welcome to Negro Leaguers in Puerto Rico, Juan Tetelo Vargas, the Dominican deer. Good evening and welcome for joining us. This for now our 7th episode of Negro Leaguers in Puerto Rico. My name is Adam Dorowski. I'm the product director at Sports Reference. We make baseball reference and stat head, but I'm joined as always tonight by my dear friend Jorge Colon Delgado. How are you, Jorge?
Very happy. Another episode, and this one, you know that Tetelo Vargas was good, but he was great. And we have a presentation here, not only about Puerto Rico, but United States and all Latin America. So let's start eager to learn about Tetelo Vargas.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, Tetelo Vargas, I did not know him until we launched the Negro League stats at Baseball Reference. Yes. And all of a sudden, the new all-time single-season batting average leader was a player named Tetelo Vargas that I did not know anything about. So as with so many of the players that have made their way to the site there, I started reading about him and learning more about him, learning from you about him, learning from many others about him, and just found out not only was it Vargas who was just this incredible player who played all over the Western Hemisphere, but there were many, many other players like him that we'll kind of touch on a little bit later. But tonight is all about Juan Tetelo Vargas, who I believe is, I say this about a lot of these players that I've discovered. They're all great. They're all amazing players, but I truly believe that Tetelo Vargas is a unknown all-time great.
Yep.
One of the best players in baseball history.
Yes, I agree with you. And I know that all the people that are with us tonight are going to agree with us. Let's begin with this great presentation.
And if anybody doesn't, by the end, they will.
Yep.
All right. So Tetelo Vargas was born in 1906. This photo here, he is with which team was this that he's with?
Caguas.
Caguas. Yes. Okay. In Puerto Rico. And you can see here that he passed away in Puerto Rico, even though he was Dominican. And what's interesting about Vargas is he was the first great Dominican player. He played a lot in Puerto Rico, and he ended up marrying a Puerto Rican woman. Actually, I believe. Then he married a second Puerto Rican woman, settled there, and died there. He lived there the rest of his life. So he really, really loved the island and made it his own, even though that's not where he was born.
Yes. He was very beloved in Puerto Rico, and after he retired, we're going to see later, he stayed in Guayama. He married. All his siblings are from Guayama, and as you said, he is buried in Guayama, and he has an avenue, one of the principal avenues of Guayama has his name. So he very important figure in Guayama.
That's awesome. We're going to get into his years there as well. But this next slide. So when I said his stats were added to Baseball Reference, this is what was added. We had 5 seasons of statistics from him with various number of games played. But you can see that 1943 season, a .471 batting average. And because we did not have an incredible number of box scores from the 1943 New York Cubans, and he played in enough of them to qualify for the batting title. And that became our single season batting average record on Baseball Reference. And we've had some updates from the Seamheads Negro Leagues database since then, but that record has remained untouched. And it's just a remarkable season there. And you see, it's not the only one that he hit really well. And there's another season there where he hit 349 in 44 games, 379 in 25 games, and then some shorter, smaller samples where he didn't hit quite as well. But there are some sources that say in all competition, like including the barnstorming games, he was, again, well over 300. And he just basically hit 300 or 400 everywhere that he went. So the bulk of the presentation that I'm going to be telling you about is the the seasons that are not captured in that baseball reference slide. He played 22 seasons in Puerto Rico, some of them in the professional league, some of them before the professional league was established. He played 11 seasons in Venezuela, and in some of those seasons in Venezuela, he actually played in tours of Puerto Rico as well. He played 9 seasons in the United States. So you only saw 5 of them in that previous slide, but he did play for some barnstorming teams such as the Havana Red Sox and the Cuban House of David. Played 7 seasons in his native Dominican Republic, including the very interesting 1937 season that we'll talk about some. Played 3 seasons in Cuba, and even played 1 season as a youngster in Colombia. He is not in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, but he is a member of 3 Halls of Fame. He was inducted into the 2nd class of the Puerto Rican Baseball Hall of Fame. The 1st class being in 91, he was inducted in 1992. So Cuba's Hall of Fame, I have an asterisk here because it's a little tricky. For a time there, there was a unofficial, quote unquote, in exile era where they continued to induct players, but now the actual Cuban Hall of Fame doesn't recognize all of those selections. It's a little bit tricky to explain, but during that time in between, he was elected, and I think it's likely that he might get elected again by the official body. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then the Latino Baseball Hall of Fame inducted him in 2010 because, as you can see, he just played all over the place in Latino baseball. Now these numbers here that I have, the All-Stars, the batting titles, and the Gold Gloves, these are like a minimum. Like, we don't have stats for every season. He had the 8 All-Stars, the 3 batting titles, and 1 Gold Glove, which, interestingly enough, that Gold Glove came when he was 47 years old. So it can tell you what kind of a defender he really was. So the next slide here, this I have not only for Tetelo Vargas, but for many, many other players who were peers of his that played all over the place in Latin America. I've tried to collect as many of his stats from other published sources as I can find. Now, I did not go through box score after box score to compile these stats. These are from books on Cuban baseball. These are from my friend Jorge here, who has the stats from Puerto Rico on the Negro Leaguers in Puerto Rico.com. And Dr. Leighton Ravel from the Center for Negro League Baseball Research has many seasons, such as the Dominican League as well. And what I've done is, from those sources, I've put together this slide, which is kind of intentionally difficult to read because it just shows the enormity of the length of his career, 33 seasons across 6 countries. Now, on the next slide, I give you the nice totals. So all of those rows add up to 5,219 at-bats, which now we're getting to be a really good sample here, and 1,686 hits for a 323 batting average. Now, one thing that's important to remember, you remember a lot of the early seasons were empty, meaning that when he was a young player, we don't have any stats for those seasons. So those are seasons when he was kind of in his prime. What we do have for Vargas is a lot of seasons in his later career. And in some of those, he started to slow down, understandably. So when we get into his stats by country, I'll talk about that a little bit more. But the second row here is the rate stats. So on a 600 at-bat rate, he hit 323, 129 runs scored, 194 hits. The runs batted in, it's important to mention a couple things. First of all, he was typically a speedster leadoff man, so you can see that in the runs scored total. But a lot of the seasons I collected, I don't have RBI totals, so that's why that one is a little bit low. Same with stolen bases. We're missing a lot of stolen bases. He was known to be an incredible base runner, and from the seasons that I have, 25 stolen bases per 600 at-bats. Still, the 428 slugging to go along with that batting average means he had some pop as well, as you can see with those triples and doubles. Mm-hmm. So the next slide, this introduces MLEs. Now, I'm going to take a second to explain what an MLE. MLE stands for Major League Equivalency. A friend and fellow researcher, Eric Shalek, has developed a system that attempts to estimate the statistics that a player from the Negro Leagues would produce if that one player was lifted from his career and put into the ALNL. So it's important to say that what Eric isn't doing, he's not doing this as if the entire league was integrated and every Black and Afro-Latino player was in the ALNL. He's saying just you're taking one player and putting them in, just because that's otherwise it would be way too much speculation. But with this, he has a pretty good system where he can estimate. And these are the stats that he comes up with for Tetelo Vargas. He has 9,583 at-bats, which is a long career, of course, because we saw he played 33 years. Obviously, in major league equivalencies, he wouldn't have played that long, but still, it's a over 20-year career. And then 3,000 hits. He believes that he would have been a 3,000 hit man. Well, I say Eric believes that. Eric's system believes that. If you ask Eric himself, he will say that Tetelo Vargas is one of the players that has the largest error bars, he would say. So the system is making the most guesses or estimations about him, because a lot of the stats that I have are for seasons that Eric doesn't have complete data for. So it's harder to make an assessment based on those seasons. So there's a little bit more speculation in these numbers, but as you can see in the MLE rates per 600 at-bats, it's pretty similar to what I was finding in the seasons that he played all over the world. So I think Eric's actually done a pretty good job here of estimating what a full career of Tetelo Vargas would look like. And if you look at it by wins above replacement, he would be basically a 70 WAR player, which essentially means that we're looking at a Hall of Famer here. I just love these numbers. It's amazing to see not only the numbers that he compiled when you actually find the real numbers, but then when you use these estimations and systems like that, you can actually find just the type of player he would have translated into. So this is zooming in on that big chart. These are just the seasons that he played for teams in Puerto Rico. So this isn't like tours of Puerto Rico with other teams, but this is when he played in a league in Puerto Rico. And you can see the gap here between 1928 and 1938. So as a youngster, he played in Puerto Rico before it was a professional league. So this was an amateur system. And I don't know, Jorge, if you could kind of tell the watchers and listeners about what baseball was like in Puerto Rico before the beginning of the professional league.
Well, it was organized, but it was mostly amateur. And they made all-star teams to go to Venezuela, Dominican Republic, and to participate in the Central American games. But all that began to change in 1931 when La Ligas Extranjeras, foreign league, they became all those Negro leaguers to come to Puerto Rico, Concordia, Las Estrellas de Ramirez, New York Black Yankees, Brooklyn Eagles. They came every year in the winter. And that was before they played from 1931 to 1937. And then in 1938, began the Professional Baseball League, Puerto Rico Professional Baseball League. As a matter of fact, last May 22nd, it was our 85th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we are this year we're celebrating 85 years of professional baseball in Puerto Rico.
That's amazing. Yeah, and that first year, of course, had many of the Latin American and Negro League stars. Like, obviously, Pancho and Perucho played in the league because they were native to the island, but Tetelo was there as well. And right away, the league was just very, very impressive. So he was with Guayama right away in 1938, and he hit 415 in the very first season of the league. And you can see the batting averages right from when he started off: 415, 363, 331, 346, 410. Just an amazing hitter. And the stolen base totals, also quite a few of them as well. Some of those seasons are missing stolen bases. Some of the totals are low, which makes me think that maybe there's only some stats for some of the games. But you'll also notice in this slide how old Tetelo was when he was playing in this league. Ignore my typo in 1944-45, but you can see that when the league began, much like Pancho Coimbra and Perucho Cepeda, he was older. So he was 32 years old when the league began. And by the time he ended playing in the league, he was 48 years old. And you can see at the tail end there, some of those seasons, he did struggle more. So if you go to the next slide and you just focus on age 32 to 41, this gives you a good glimpse of what he was like, not even in his prime, but like in his late prime. A 368 hitter with a 510 slugging. Like, these are just incredible numbers from a speedster who also had, just this incredible contact ability. He was stealing tons of bases, hitting a lot of triples, hitting a lot of doubles, and a few home runs here and there too. So he was a well-rounded player. And not only that, by now he was an outfielder, but he was a exceptional outfielder. And in his younger days, he was a shortstop as well. Tetelo played a lot of years too in Venezuela. This is a lot of these are earlier in his career as well. You can see Concordia, like we mentioned earlier. That's the team he was playing for when he traveled to Puerto Rico not for the first time, because he was playing in Puerto Rico in the amateur leagues when he was a teenager. But he traveled with this Concordia team. We're going to show you some photos later of this team. There were some absolute stars on this team, such as Josh Gibson, just to name one.
Yeah.
But across all these seasons, fewer games available in a lot of these seasons, but in the ones that we have, it's a 315 average and 439, pretty consistent with what we see of Tetelo in other places. Just always a 300 hitter, always doing everything. One thing that stands out here is the number of stolen bases that he had. This is 378 at bats, so like a portion of a season, but he's got 44 steals, and a lot of those seasons we don't have stolen bases for. Vargas in the United States was also something to behold. We know that in 1943 he set that batting average record, but that was not the only time that he hit well in the United States. In fact, if you look at it, like, this was the country he found it the easiest to hit in out of all of the places that he played. 359 batting average in 190 games, so well over a full quote-unquote AL/NL season worth of games with the 519 slugging. Again, a good number of stolen bases, but here we see more power. 43 doubles, 15 triples, 15 home runs. But that 359 really stands out. It makes you think, ooh, the Negro Leagues were great, but the other leagues that he played in start to look really good when you see that he excelled even more in the Negro Leagues than maybe he did in the other ones. Also, his native Dominican Republic. Some of these seasons are when he was very young. Some of these are when he was very old. In that 1953 season, where he hit 355, he won the batting title and won the Gold Glove. Just unbelievable production as a much older player. Again, so a lot of these stats are when he's in his 30s and 40s, but still he's hitting 325 and slugging over 400. And still another sample of more than 800 at-bats. So, we're looking at multiple seasons at once, but when we add up these small numbers of games that we have, we end up with, eventually getting to over 5,000 at-bats, which that's a pretty good sample to learn about what type of a player we're looking at. And, everywhere he went, it was similar numbers as well. Next, we have Cuba, which he didn't play as much in, just 3 seasons and a smaller sample here of 416 at-bats, but he didn't hit 300 here, which actually is something of note because usually he did. A lot of the at-bats here in his age 36 season when he was a little bit older with Havana and hit 257 in 191 at-bats, but overall 286, not as much on the slugging side, but I have the feeling that some of these zeros might be because we don't have data available. Or it could just be, in some seasons, Cuba was a notoriously difficult place to hit. So if you looked at this in terms of OPS plus, it might look a little different. And then at age 19, he had the one season in Colombia, which stands out because not too many players I've looked at played in Colombia. I think Quincy Troop is one other one who did. But we don't have any stats for this season, but still very, it's worth noting that he was heading down to play for Atlas Baseball Club in 1925. So if you look at the totals across all of these countries, here they are. And you can see, you know, except for Cuba, where he dropped a few points below, he's hitting 300 everywhere. He's usually hitting well over 300 everywhere. He's slugging, he's got stolen bases, and boy, does he score a lot of runs. If we jump to the next slide, this is all normalized across like a 600 at-bat sample in the next slide.
The next slide, wait a second. That next slide, number 16 is missing. Sorry.
Oh, nope, no problem. So basically what I did on that slide is I took everything and normalized it to 600 at-bats. And all of a sudden, like these stats all, again, look similar for in each country. He's got usually between 125 and 140 runs per season. Cuba was a little bit lower, 190s for hits, in the mid 30s for doubles, in the low teens for triples, and stolen bases were all over the place because the different countries recorded them differently. But in Venezuela, in particular, he was stealing 70 bases per 600 at bats. Very impressive. The batting averages, of course, stay the same. But again, those numbers all put together give you a pretty good idea of the type of player Tetelo Vargas was. And I think, again, it's important to note that the majority of these numbers came well after he was in his mid 30s. And, you know, some things like RBI and stolen bases are incomplete. So in summary, just simply one of the best players from the Caribbean. 43-44, he was the first Dominican to win a batting title in Puerto Rico when he hit 410. And he's one of 4 players that batted 400 or better twice. He was first in triples in 38-39, so that was the inaugural season. And then again in 46-47, which means he's probably like 40-something years old at this point when he's leading the league in triples. He was the leader in runs in that inaugural season, and then again the following season, and then 2 more times after that. First in stolen bases in 39-40 and 40-41. He led in slugging in that first season, 38-39, with 677. And lifetime in the league, he's 4th in runs scored, 5th in triples, 6th in batting average, and 7th in stolen bases. He, like we mentioned before, he's named to the Puerto Rico Professional Baseball Hall of Fame in '92. In 2014, he was selected as one of the best 75 players in the history of the Puerto Rican Professional League. And now we have essentially a scrapbook of incredible photos, because I don't know about you, Jorge, but I was just shocked, like the number of photos that are available for Tetelo from like throughout his life. This is him on the right as the mascot for the Licey Tigres in 1921. So he's very young at this point. I think he was playing for Licey's second team at this point. And I was reading one article, I think it was on Baseball 101, where he was signed away from Licey, and it was treated in the press almost like Babe Ruth being sold by the Red Sox. It was like they had their young mega star and they just let him slip away. He signed on with his brothers with let's see, it was Escogido. That's what it was, the Leones. And that's where he started his career there with the Leones rather than the Tigres. And here he is again. He looks a little bit taller because he's not next to those giant men, but he's the mascot there with Licey again.
Yep.
And here's the Licey team. That's not him in the middle there? That's him on the right.
He's in the right, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they must have had a couple of mascots. I don't actually know who was on this 1921 team. That would be interesting to find out. That's kind of the missing piece in a lot of this research that I've been doing is, all right, now who are the teammates on all these teams? Because a lot of times we'll find these really good groups of players together, which we're about to see in some of the other teams he played for. So 1922, he's still the mascot there, seated in the front.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great photo. And then Humacao, this is in Puerto Rico at 17 years old. playing in the amateur league. So I wonder just how amateur it was, because I don't know how common it was for a player of 17 years of age to go from his native Dominican Republic to Puerto Rico to play baseball. I wonder if he was scouted and somehow compensated for his skills, even if it was not a fully professional league yet. Playing in Venezuela with Concordia. We're going to have quite a few shots with Concordia Eagles here. Aguilas. So this one, you're going to have to help me out here with this.
That's one. He represented Puerto Rico, and he was playing in the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
So
playing in his native Dominican Republic, but representing Puerto Rico. That's interesting. Yep. Here he is again with Concordia in 1931. Still a very young Tetelo. We're gonna see him getting much older. So here we go. We've got Tetelo is
the one on the right.
That's what I thought, because in the middle, is this Dihigo?
Yes, the Eagle. And in the left, Marcelino Blondet from Puerto Rico, great player, who managed Concordia, and he was nicknamed El Brujo, the Witch. Marcelino El Brujo Blondet, Martín Dihigo, and Tetelo Vargas with the Concordia.
Yes, this Concordia team, they had players such as Dihigo and Josh Gibson, who we're going to see a little bit later. Unbelievable. Then here he is with Concordia's John Mize, who you might recognize from the National League. So, they were attracting a lot of wonderful players over there in Venezuela. Of course, here this looks like one of those traveling exhibitions where Mize was playing for Concordia, which is based in Venezuela, but they're playing in a tournament in the Dominican Republic in 1904.
You see that the ballpark has a double deck.
Yeah, that is a beautiful park.
Yeah, very rare. That's the Concordia Eagles.
Here's some. Look at the players. We've got Vargas, we've got Dihigo, we've got Blondet, we've got Gibbon, we've got Rap Dixon in the middle. Is that Pedro Sam on the right? It's tough.
Yeah, Pedro Sam.
Pedro Sam, yep. And then on the left, second, is Luis Aparicio Sr.
Yes.
So just a lot of names. Aparicio was also a shortstop, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, he was. So, I just looking at these teams, because there's so many stars here. Just to have Rap Dixon in the middle, you've Gibson and of course. If you're counting on two hands the greatest players in the history of the game, that's two of your fingers right there. Vargas, we've talked about, is also incredibly underrated. You have the father of a Hall of Famer here in Luis Aparicio, and then other players who are lesser known, such as Blondet and Pedro Sam. Just an incredible team. And here's the following season, where we again have Vargas, Dihigo, and Aparicio. But on the right here, you can see Emilio Navarro and also Alejandro Oms, who we've talked about a couple times. And then on the left here, we have this stocky pitcher here, Manuel Cocaina Garcia, who is he's an incredible story as well. Just another player who played all over the place, and probably won well over 300 games if somebody was able to tally up his stats from all over the place. Gavilanes. So this team was based in, is this Venezuela as well?
Yes, Venezuela, Maracaibo.
Yeah, okay. Right. So he played in, you have September 37 here. Yeah, I have him there in 36, so he very well might have played there in 37, because I don't have anything in Venezuela for 37. But in 36, he hit 295 in the 14 games that I have. But you can see here, Tetelo is the fourth one in on the top left. You have Luis Aparicio again, and then you have another famous father. You have Luis Tian, and then I'm not sure who this is, the third player.
La Antigua.
Lantigua.
Catcher.
Okay. The cat. Okay. Yeah. So again, just another great team here. Here he is in Guayama. This is the first season of the professional league in Puerto Rico.
Guayama was the champion that year in the 1938, 39, and 1939, 40.
And he was
they won the World Series of the.
His teammate. Oh, I was just going to say his teammate was Perucho Cepeda, correct? And Perucho is right there in the middle and the bottom. And who else did he have on his team here?
Oh, they had. I think that those were the biggest name there. They have Rafael Ortiz was a good pitcher. Bill Perkins was the catcher.
Right. Bill Perkins, Conde, right? Wasn't he?
I said Cefo Conde and Radamés Lopez. As another Menchín Pesante was there too. Moncho Blondet, the one that played with him in Concordia, was there too. Serrano. That was a great team, and that was the second edition of Guayama. Satchel Paige won 19 games.
And, right. Satchel Paige, we didn't even mention him. He's right there.
And Perucho was shortstop, batted fourth, and was champion again, batting champion 2 years in a row. Great Perucho Cepeda. We want to make a program about him, about Perucho.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Here he is with Joe Louis in 1941.
I think that was
right around the States. Yeah, I was going to say that was around when he was playing pretty often in the United States.
1941. Yeah, it said there, New York City.
Oh, yeah.
August 1st, 1941. Yes, New York City.
Yep, that was the year 349 for the Cubans in 44 games. With Habana in 1941 here. This is one of his seasons in Cuba. All right, this is the 42-43 Leones. He was again with Tehigo, again with Cocaina Garcia. Did Garcia ever play for a Puerto Rican team?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah, with Ponce.
Very cool. I'll have to track that one down. I was thinking that he's probably the next pitcher I'll have to start collecting stats for. Oh, look at this. Here we go. Pancho Coimbre, along with Tetelo and Amiel Brooks. I don't really know Amiel Brooks very well.
No, he was a good player. He came he played in Puerto Rico in the first season in 1938 with Mayagüez. One of the three reinforcement players with Mayagüez. But so.
He played 14 years in the Negro Major Leagues. Holy cow. I got to learn that name. Oh, he was a catcher. And
Amiel Brooks.
Yeah. Excellent. Here he is with Mayagüez, 1944-45. We can see he's finally showing a little bit more age. He was kind of an ageless wonder for a while there, but now, we're getting to be like 20 years into his career here. Oh, this one is a great one. 1944-45 All-Star game. So that is Tubby Scales in the top left, who is the manager, I believe, of this team.
Yep.
And let's see. We've got Roy Campanella, Partlow, Campanella, Jethro.
Yep. Davenport, Sammy Bankhead.
Sammy Bankhead, too. Holy moly. Yeah, he played for some great teams. Oh, Tommy, yeah.
Yeah. Tommy Boss. And you have there Roy Partlow in the middle, in the standing, the fourth one.
So this team had to have an outfield of Tetelo Vargas, Sam Jethro. Gosh, I don't even know who the third one would be, but I don't know how any balls would fall in. Was Lazaro Medina an outfielder? Maybe that might have been. First baseman. Oh, we got Terrace McDuffie too. Holy cow!
Yeah, that was a good. The other outfielder was Alfonso Geral.
Okay.
Alfonso Geral was a player, that always was in the shadow of those great players from Santurce, but in almost every season, he batted over 300. But, we Willard Brown, Bob Thurman, all those guys, he was always overshadowed. But Alfonso Gerard from Virgin Island.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got him pulled up here. That's great. Ah, here he is with a car from the Caguas fans.
The Caguas fans collected the money, and that was in the United States. They gave cars to the ball players. In Puerto Rico, I only have identified 3. The first one was Joe Busas with Mayagüez, who was manager. The second one was Tetelo Vargas, and the third one was Tony Perez. We call him here in Puerto Rico Tony Perez. In the United States, Tony Perez, when he was with Santurce. So those are the 3 figures in Puerto Rico, the few players that they got a car as a gift from the fans.
You know, that is a stat that I didn't get anywhere. That is amazing.
The 3 cars?
Yep.
Yeah. I saw the other day, I saw a picture. They gave one to Jackie Robinson.
Oh, wow. This was one that I had not seen before when I was looking at this. And this is one of the most beautifully clear photos I've seen of Perucho Cepeda.
Yeah.
And I love this photo. And Tetelo, of course, just looking at him like, that's our guy right there.
And all of the Tetelo, Perucho, and the first one, Radamés Lopez, the 3 of them came from Guayama. Those were the years of the Second World War, and they distribute every year. They gave the players, Tetelo Vargas played with Mayagüez and Santurce. Perucho Cepeda played with Santurce, Mayagüez, and San Juan and Caguas. Same with Radamés Lopez. But after the Second World War finished, the 3 of them, Radamés Lopez, Tetelo Vargas, and Perucho Cepeda, played with Caguas. We're going to see them here. There they are.
Oh my gosh. Look at that photo. So this is the same 4 players that we just were looking at.
Yes, the same 4 players. They play with Caguas. They beat Caguas because Guayama didn't return to the league, disappeared.
No, right now I'm looking up. Tetelo looks pretty tall in that photo. What do we have? We only have him as 5'9". Wow. Okay.
He looks taller than Cepeda.
Sure does.
And Cepeda was 5'10". So
yeah, I'm not so sure about that 5'9" then.
Yes, I'm not sure about that. He's taller than, so he must be about 6 feet. 6 feet.
Right.
Easily.
Yeah, this one, he just looks like the tall, slender type here as well. This is with Estrellas Orientales, which was a Dominican team, correct?
Dominican Republic, yeah.
Yes, okay. Where he played with them for many, many years. Including here as he was getting older. I have to assume that this one is much later in his career. This is the team that he was playing for when he won that Gold Glove at 47.
Yes.
And you can see here, like, you know who he reminds me of here is Julio Franco.
Ah, Julio Franco.
Who just played forever and looked like an athletic specimen at this age as well, in his late 40s. And yeah, it just, he reminds me of Franco as well.
It's another one.
Yes. Caguas 52, 53. So he's about 46, 47 years old in this one.
This one, 53, 54, they won the championship. That was the team that had Hank Aaron. You can see him in the middle.
Yeah, right there in the middle. Yeah. Right. If people can't see it, look at the 5 in the 54 and go straight down. And there he is. Look at that. And just below him to the left, that's Tetelo, correct? Yep.
Tetelo and the manager, Mickey Owens, Brooklyn Dodgers.
Ah, yeah.
And the other one is Efo Conde. And as we have talked here Hank Aaron came as a second baseman, and he had trouble defensively, and they moved him in Puerto Rico. Mickey Owens moved him to right field, and we know the history.
Do we know who this is? Front row, second one from the left.
That's Victor Pello, Vic Power.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say he looks very familiar.
Yeah,
and a young Vic Power. Perfect.
And the one with the sunglasses is Roberto Vargas.
Oh, okay.
He played in the Negro Leagues, and in the first row, the third row, the first one is Felix Mantilla.
Oh, nice.
He played with the Mets in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
and you had here in the two players at the left of Hank Aaron, that's Jim Rivera. Play with the White Sox.
Mm. This is great. Oh, his radio program. This was in Puerto Rico, I assume?
Yes, that was in Puerto Rico. It was a radio program. And he kept in sports, and he worked in Guayama in the sports department, you know.
Mm. Yeah, I'm definitely questioning the height here. He looks pretty tall here, although we go to the next slide and he doesn't look so tall anymore. So we'll have to so here he is as a Pirates scout, which is something that I only recently learned, that he spent time as a scout for the Pirates, and the player he's credited with signing is Julian Javier.
I didn't know he was a Pirates scout until this presentation. You sent me that. Yeah. You know, let's find out. Although he's, you know, you get older, you get smaller, but
right.
Julian Javier,
I have him as 6'1" here, so
6'1". Yeah, he has to be 6 feet in his prime.
Yeah, or 5'11", 6 feet. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not 5'9". And as you say, a center fielder with all those big numbers.
Right. I've gone through a similar thing with Heavy Johnson. He's listed as 5'9", 200 in some, or 5'6", 200 in some place, or 5'7", I think it was. And some places have him as 6 feet, 250. It's all over the place. So and then you look at photos and you see him standing next to a guy that you know is 6'1", and you're like, actually, he's probably 6 feet, 6'1".
Yes. So we can 5'11", 6 feet. We can go sure for that. A great presentation, Adam. A great. You did a lot of investigation, research. That's the correct word, research. So, congrats. Very good. And we learned a lot. I know that all the persons that are with us tonight learned a lot of Tetelo Vargas. And as I say, I knew that he was great, but not so great. And this type of webinars teach a lot about all these ball players. And this is the first one that we take not only Puerto Rico, but the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew and you knew that he was good in Puerto Rico, but when you add as United States, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Cuba, you say, wow, this guy was good in every country.
Right. And what's interesting too is the players that he played with in Venezuela, in the Dominican Republic, a lot of times they traveled together. So you can't tell the story without including the other stories as well. These countries were all places that were hotbeds of baseball, where these players who were not given the proper opportunities in the United States, they found these places where they could prosper. And we can see that these players had long, productive careers that have to be seen at the same level as a lot of the careers that you see from any random player from the AL and NL.
Yeah. I know that I have said this before, but every time you see these numbers, these players, in conversation with people like you, I have to think about what would happen if they had the chance to play in the big leagues. Mm-hmm. It's so sad, and I'm sure that the numbers that we know about the white players, Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Lou Gehrig, Roger Hornsby, all those guys, they wouldn't have those numbers. Definitely,
nope.
I'm sure.
Now, anytime somebody wants to tell me, well, Tetelo Vargas wasn't playing against the top competition. Well, guess what? Neither were the white players because they weren't playing against Tetelo Vargas.
Yes, correct. And that's the beauty of this, and the beauty of keep researching of all these players and keep talking about them. So frankly, it's a great job. Congratulations for your great presentation. And we have another presentation in June of our friend Adam Dabrowski, and we want him to talk about it.
Yeah, I was approached. It was incredible to be approached by Sean Gibson of the Josh Gibson Foundation. He's Josh's great grandson, and he asked me if I would be interested in doing a talk for their Negro Leagues Matter webinar series. And I wasn't really sure what to talk about, but players like the ones we've been talking about in these webinars really resonated with me. So what I ended up doing was creating a all-star team of this type of player, and Tetelo Vargas is the center fielder of this team. So in a way, this part of this presentation was a preview of what you'll get some of in the other presentation as well. But the team is a lot of players that we recognize from our discussions here. The pitcher is Ramon Bragana, who actually didn't play for any teams based in Puerto Rico, but he did play in Puerto Rico. Quincy Troop is the catcher, and he played quite a few years in Puerto Rico. At first base, I have Perucho Cepeda because I have a lot of shortstops on this team. Second base, Marvin Williams, who played in Puerto Rico as well. Mm-hmm. Third base, Buster Clarkson, who is a Hall of Famer in Puerto Rico. The shortstop is Silvio Garcia, who only played, I believe, 1 year in Puerto Rico, but he did it as a pitcher and won the ERA title. Just an unbelievable player. And then in the outfield, we have 3 Hall of Famers from Puerto Rico. We have Pancho Coimbre in left. We have Tetelo Vargas in center. And I originally had Wild Bill Wright as my right fielder, but I felt like he didn't play in enough countries. So I swapped him out, and my right fielder is now Bob Thurman.
Wow, Bob Thurman. And you included Perucho Cepeda. That's the only one that did not play in the United States.
Correct. He did not play in the United States at all. But I still felt that his story was one that needed to be told. And I also picked a manager/utility player for this team who I don't know if he ever played in Puerto Rico, but he was a pitcher, a first baseman, outfielder, and a managing legend, Lázaro Salazar. He's another guy very similar to Vargas, who I've just fallen in love with. He had a long career, did many different things, won 14 titles as a manager. Do you know if he ever played in Puerto Rico?
I think I think he came with Almendares 1 year.
That makes sense. Yep.
I think I'm gonna investigate and gonna write to you, but I'm almost sure that he played with Almendares one of those winters.
So as you can see, a lot of those players played in Puerto Rico. Gosh, what are 4 or 5? I think it's 5 of them are Hall of Famers in Puerto Rico. So it's quite the team of, honestly, I don't know if I should make the case that these players should be Hall of Famers, but I think I can at least make the case that these were Hall of Fame level talents.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they would be eligible because they didn't really play that long in the United States. I don't really care about whether they're eligible or not. I want to share their story. So I'm very excited to do it.
Yes. So June 3rd, 2023, Beyond the Negro Leagues, Outsider Baseball Outside the United States by Adam Dabrowski. Please join us that day. It's going to be a great presentation. And let me see if I can put here the comments. Okay. A lot of people.
Oh my goodness, I didn't have the comments open. Wow, there's a bunch. Hello, everyone. Lise, I was pronouncing it wrong. Lise Tigas. Thank you for correcting me there. Lacey, I sound like an American right there. Whew.
Lise. Excellent photos. Yeah, Victor Peyor. Here's explícanos. Tell us who is Adam Dabrowski. Go ahead, Adam.
Who am I? Oh gosh, I'm a good friend of Jorge. I am. Yeah, I'm the product director for Baseball Reference, and we work on Baseball Reference Stat Head. I just love being able to help people use Baseball Reference better, and I love using it when I'm not working on it. It's just I feel like I've kind of figured out the work-life balance where from 9 to 5 I work on Baseball Reference, and from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. I play with Baseball Reference.
And Baseball Reference is number one. Every researcher, every baseball fan, that's the place to go. Great tool to learn about baseball. And now they have Negro Leaguers in Baseball Reference, so you can go there and learn a lot. And that's what Alan does. He works with Baseball Reference. Here's another greetings, Mr. Jorge Conlegal. My blessings to everyone here. Thank you. Let's see. Blessings to my friends.
I just saw some wonderful paintings that you shared from Ed. My gosh, those were beautiful.
Ed Panas, yes,
Was it
a great
Willard
painter.
Brown? There were two or three of them. Willard Brown was one, right?
Willard Brown, Josh Gibson, and Jose Gacho Torres.
Oh wow, they were amazing. Ed, that is unbelievable work. I'm in awe.
Yeah, he's a great painter, my friend, and he helps me a lot. So let me see. Excellent, my friend Tom Forrest. Thank you for so many comments. Thank you for being with us. I really appreciate. I think this is the program with more comments, so we appreciate all those comments and you being with us.
And before we went on, we were talking about how the next show we think will be about Buster Clarkson, which I'm very excited about.
Buster Clarkson, and we're gonna do a type of program like today in Puerto Rico, and he's all over the place, right?
He is not quite as many places, but still quite a few. I can't wait to see the photos that you have as well, because a lot of these photos came from Jorge, and you have so many photos. It's unbelievable. I look forward to those every time, because it takes these stats that I've been compiling and it turns them into a real human. And I can see, like in the case of Tetelo Vargas, we could see him from when he was a boy, as when he was the mascot, all the way through to his late 40s when he was playing, and then beyond that too as well. Just unbelievable.
A special hello. Let me say hello to Jaime Denizar. He liked the program. He saw that his father talking about Tetelo Vargas. Thank you, Jaime, being with us. Ed Pana, Roberto Jusino, thank you. I don't know who is, but he's always with us. Facebook user, not name, but thank you, Facebook user, with us. My friend Raul Ramos is there too.
Nice.
So next month we're gonna have Buster Clarkson. We're gonna have another great program. Thank you so much, Adam, and wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope to see some of you on June 3rd, and the ones that I don't, I'll see next month when we talk Buster Clarkson.
Great. So until next, let me see here. Until next month. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.